Hello, everybody. My name is Josue Guedes, and welcome to Chair of Truth. Today, we're going to be switching gears. We're going to be focusing a little bit on a different subject today, which is philosophy. And what I want this video to be mainly focused on is the Christian's approach to doing philosophy. I noticed that today, philosophy, per se, is apologetics. Now, apologetics is not philosophy in the proper sense of the term, but it seems to have taken the place of philosophy in sort of Christian circles, at least on YouTube. What I would like to show in this video is that doing apologetics is good, but it isn't the whole thing. It's not the whole story. There's more to talk about reality than merely answering difficult questions that someone in the opposition asks you. And so what I want to do is kind of provide a sort of alternative approach when doing philosophy. Philosophy in, I guess you could say, the more truest sense of the term. So, yeah, let's begin. All right. So there's not really a good definition for philosophy, unfortunately. There's always a debate about what philosophy is about. To put it simply, the etymology of philosophy basically reduces to the love of wisdom, right? The love of wisdom is Greek for philosophy. We tend to conflate philosophy with apologetics. What apologetics derives from the term apologia or apologia, which in Greek means defense, right? So if you're going to a court of law, you're going to be providing a defense for your position. And that is a biblical term, right? We see this in scripture everywhere. So my critique is not about what scripture says. My critique is going to be about what Christians are doing when doing apologetics, when doing philosophy. What I would like to do is I want to first explain that philosophy and apologetics are not exclusive from one another. They're not really separate from one another, but they are distinct. They are two distinct entities, but they're not separate, right? By doing apologetics, you will do philosophy. And by doing philosophy, somehow you will end up doing apologetics because you will defend your position at some point. But there is a distinction here. Apologetics in the Christian perspective is to provide a defense for the hope that is in you, which is Christianity. But when doing philosophy, you're discovering, you're analyzing reality. And so right off the bat, these are two different things. One is to give a defense for your Christianity. And in the other case, it's discovering and analyzing the nature of reality. Now, what exactly is it that I'm trying to do at this point, now that I've made a specific distinction between apologetics and philosophy and the Christian doing both? I think that the Christian should be trying to lean towards doing philosophy. Now, I'm not saying making philosophy over and above defending your faith. As a matter of fact, I think that defending your faith is just going to be a byproduct of doing philosophy. And so in this sense, what I want to kind of propose here is, in order to develop a stronger intellectual stance in your faith and spiritual stance in your faith, you need to know how to talk about reality. To talk about reality is not simply to answer difficult questions, right? To try to give a response or a rebuttal right away to someone who gives you a difficult question. But it's being able to explore the ideas that surround you, to explore the reality that God has made, to really try to understand what it is we're living. I think that that is often missed out when we're doing apologetics, when we're analyzing the world that God has made. So I'll give you a really good example of how this can be missed when doing apologetics. Let's suppose for a moment that we're discussing the cosmological argument, or one of the cosmological arguments, which is we're trying to argue for what is the first cause of the universe. Sometimes we will just regurgitate what another apologist would say to this. They would say something like, whatever begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist. Therefore, the universe has a cause, and that must be God. Boom. All right, I see this a lot. And, if the opposition were to say, well, I don't think that there was a beginning, you might respond with, aha, but there is a beginning because look, science. Or look, babies are not just born out of nothing, right? Things don't just pop into existence. And then at the end, you're done, right? You've debated the point, you succeeded, but then what? Right? What have you actually done here? You've won the debate, but who cares? Who cares at that point? Right? At that point, you won the debate. You've somehow proven that there is a first cause. But my question would be, do you even understand what it means to be a first cause? Could you have God existing in a world in which there was no beginning, say? Is a beginning necessary for God to exist? What type of a beginning is necessary for God to exist? Could you have a universe that is infinite and God still be in that picture? These are questions that are often missed in our apologetic engagements because we're not doing philosophy. We're just trying to figure out how to answer the opposition. So then how can we do philosophy? How can we avoid this sort of, I just want to win? It's by stepping back and recognizing you probably don't know what you're talking about. You probably don't know what it even means to say, oh, here is a cosmological argument. It's just stepping back. Step back, analyze yourself, and recognize, you know what, maybe I don't really understand the depth of my arguments. Right? I'm following the pattern that the other apologists are saying, but I'm not really understanding the depth of these arguments. I'm not really understanding the depth of the reality that God has made. Well, how do you go about it then, right? If you realize that you don't really understand the way the world works, you don't really understand the way that these arguments function, well, then what should you do instead? Well, what you should do instead is discover the world that God has made, analyzing the reality that God has given us to live in, to dwell in, to breathe in. Because by removing that and just going directly into defending yourself, defending your beliefs like that, you're missing out. You're missing out on truly grasping the complexity of reality. And by truly grasping just a little bit of it is worth way more than trying to defend it. When I first started to study philosophy, all that I wanted to do was win. I just wanted to win. I just wanted to know how to do the thing. I wanted to recite what these other apologists were doing. But what I didn't do, right, what I struggled with was, what if the other person knows more than me? right? And that happened a couple times. I came across people that were extremely bright and they didn't follow the script, right? They didn't follow the script. And what helped me to overcome that mentality was trying to embrace the fact that the world is more complicated than what I'm positing it to be. Reality is more complicated than just a couple of premises that lead to a conclusion. And I think once I started realizing that there's more to life, there's more to the world than just merely answering a difficult question, that helped me understand what I was arguing for even more in depth. So what I would like to do with you guys, maybe sometime, is going a little bit more deep into this notion of, instead of just trying to focus on apologetics, trying to be more rigorous in our philosophy. Because if we don't do that, we're not really doing anything at all. So what's maybe wiser to do here is to truly go a different route. And that route is to take a Christian approach to understanding reality. Instead of taking a Christian approach to memorize a couple verses to defend your faith. Instead, let's just explore reality. And by exploring reality, you will find the truth, right? And then the truth shall set you free. So instead of trying to find a way to argue, first try to grasp what God has already made. Understand it, analyze it, digest it, and then go from there. So I don't want this to be a simple, I'm just providing a critique of what I see Christians doing online. I want to actually give you guys at least my approach on how I would go about doing philosophy, how I would go about doing Christian philosophy. I think that's really needed. I don't think it should be avoided. It's necessary. Yeah, I'll stop it there, and I'll see you guys soon. Thank you for watching.